On one New Year's Eve, a quiet neighborhood was shattered by chaos. A call to 911 reported gunshots echoing through an alley, where police arrived to a grim discovery. A young woman lying lifeless, her injuries the result of a close-range attack. Her car was still parked at the location of what should have been a quick meetup, but the circumstances suggested anything but ordinary. Meanwhile, a few miles away, her partner had narrowly escaped death in a brutal home invasion, leaving authorities to piece together a puzzling connection between the two incidents. As the survivor recounted his harrowing encounter with the masked assailant who attacked him, he shared his suspicions about why he had been targeted. But as investigators followed the trail, they unearthed a story far darker than anyone could have anticipated. This is the heartbreaking case of Monique Baugh. Monique Latrice Leanna Baugh was born on October 17, 1991. Her family fondly remembered her as a lively and confident person who approached everything she did with determination. By 2019, she had built a career as a realtor with a local company in Minneapolis, Minnesota. She was deeply connected to her family and was in a relationship with John Mitchell Momo, a rapper from Minnesota. The couple had 2 young daughters, aged 1 and 3, and built a home together on Humboldt Avenue. John Mitchell Momo, who was living on Humboldt Avenue in Minneapolis at the time, seemed to have things going well. He was actively helping raise his 2 daughters with his longtime girlfriend, Monique Baugh. His career was also taking off after landing a record deal, bringing both money and recognition. Wanting to share his excitement, he once posted videos on social media showing off stacks of cash. However, little did he know that this would set off a chain of events that would shatter his happiness. Whatever Monique's boyfriend was connected to ultimately led to a dark turn of events. On December 31st, 2019, as the family prepared to welcome the new year, Monique received a call from a woman who introduced herself as Lisa Pawlowski. Lisa wanted to schedule a showing for a house in Maple Grove. Although Monique didn't know the caller as they had never had an appointment before, she decided to go because the location was nearby and the task seemed quick. Her boyfriend, Momo, stayed home to look after their daughters. The showing was set for 3 p.m. But when Monique arrived, she wasn't greeted by a woman named Lisa. Instead, 2 men arrived in a U-Haul, entered the house after her, and forced her into the back of the truck before driving away. For the next 2 hours, Monique was trapped inside the U-Haul as it drove around Minneapolis. Around 5:40 p.m. that same day, police received a report of a shooting at Monique's mother's house. Apparently, a masked intruder, with only one eye hole in the mask, entered the home. Before Monique's boyfriend John could react, the intruder shot him several times. He was found on the bedroom floor with multiple gunshot wounds. Although his daughters were in the house, they were unharmed. Fearing for their safety, John rushed upstairs to the room where his 1-year-old daughter was sleeping. He quickly called the police, worried about his other toddler as well. Officers arrived promptly and provided him with urgent medical care. About an hour later, a resident a few miles from where Momo was shot called 911 to report hearing 3 gunshots in an alley behind their house. When police arrived, they discovered 28-year-old Monique lying in the alley, having been shot in the face and chest at close range. Her car was still parked at the house where she had gone for the showing. Tragically, Monique didn't survive her injuries. Shockingly, both Monique and her boyfriend were attacked almost simultaneously, despite being in different locations. Fortunately, Momo survived and was able to provide police with details about what happened. He told officers that he had been downstairs at home when the front door opened. At first, he thought Monique had returned, but instead, a masked man with a single eye hole in his mask entered and began shooting. Momo was struck several times but managed to run upstairs. As he ran, he shouted to the shooter, "I'm already dead. My babies are here." Hearing this, the intruder fled. In his interview, Momo admitted he believed he was targeted because of his habit of flaunting cash and luxury on social media. However, police later uncovered that there was more going on in Momo's life. Momo had previously worked with a man named Lyndon Wiggins, another musician who was affiliated with the music company where Momo had a recording contract. However, their relationship soured in early 2019 after Lyndon accused Momo of stealing his music. After the fallout, they rarely interacted until they unexpectedly crossed paths a few months later. Shortly after this encounter, Lyndon was arrested on drug charges. Because their run-in happened right before his arrest, Lyndon became convinced that Momo had informed the police, believing he was the one responsible for tipping them off. Using the details Momo provided, police began investigating Lyndon Wiggins as a potential suspect in Monique's murder and the attempt on Momo's life. As the investigation progressed, they uncovered that the situation was far more complex than it first appeared. Officers learned that Lyndon Wiggins had been in a relationship with 28-year-old Elsa Segura for 3 years. Their relationship began in 2016 when Elsa was working as a probation officer. Police also discovered that Lyndon had shared his belief that Momo was a snitch with a man named Barry Davis, someone he worked with. Barry, in turn, was close friends with Cedric Barry. Since no one likes a snitch, it's believed that Lyndon teamed up with Barry Davis and Cedric Barry to plan a revenge attack on Momo. On December 29, 2019, 2 days before Monique's murder, Elsa met up with Lyndon after work, where he showed her a real estate listing. Investigators say Lyndon told Elsa to contact Monique and arrange a house showing in the coming days so they could confront her. The next morning, December 30th, around 9:30 a.m., surveillance footage captured Lyndon, Cedric and Barry at a store buying two-way radios, bleach, ammonia and a canvas tent. After leaving the store, they met back up with Elsa, who confirmed the showing appointment with Monique. On December 31st, Cedric rented a U-Haul with the help of a friend. By 3 p.m., Monique arrived at the house in Maple Grove, with the U-Haul pulling into the driveway shortly after. Footage from a neighbor's doorbell camera captured the men parking the U-Haul, following Monique inside and forcing her into the back of the truck. At 5:40 p.m., Cedric used Monique's house key to enter her home, where he confronted and shot Momo multiple times while his children were present. By 6:30 p.m., the U-Haul and Cedric's tan sedan were seen parked in a residential area in North Minneapolis. At this time, a resident reported hearing gunshots in the alley and saw the vehicles leaving the area. Shortly after, Monique was found in the alley, fatally shot multiple times. After killing Monique, the suspects returned the U-Haul to its owner. Police were able to track down the truck to Ramsey Court, where they found it had been rented on the day of the murder. Investigating the rental agreement led them to 2 men, who admitted they had rented the truck for Lyndon Wiggins, a known drug dealer in the area. Further investigation revealed that Cedric Barry was the one who abducted Monique and later shot Momo after getting the house keys from her. When police examined the U-Haul, they noticed a strong smell of bleach and ammonia, suggesting a thorough cleanup had taken place. They also found bloodstains, 4 pink press-on fingernails, and zip ties inside the truck. Forensic tests revealed that the blood and DNA found on the press-on nails matched Monique's DNA. This evidence pointed directly to 41-year-old Cedric Barry and 40-year-old Barry Davis. On January 2nd, police arrested both men and charged them with murder. A few days later, Elsa Segura and Lyndon Wiggins were arrested and charged with aiding and abetting the first-degree murder of Monique Baugh. Cedric Barry and Barry Davis were convicted of first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, and kidnapping. They were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Next, the trials for Elsa Segura and Lyndon Wiggins began. The prosecution argued that Monique's murder would not have occurred if Lyndon and Elsa hadn't worked together to set up her kidnapping. The entire plan stemmed from Lyndon's conflict with Momo, which led him to ask Elsa to trick Monique into going to that house. Without Elsa luring Monique, she wouldn't have been kidnapped and killed. As a result, both Elsa and Lyndon were held equally responsible for her death, as they were the ones who kidnapped her and carried out the murder. Both were sentenced to life in prison. However, in a surprising twist, Elsa appealed her conviction, and the case reached the Minnesota Supreme Court. In the end, the court actually overturned her convictions for murder and kidnapping. The Minnesota Supreme Court ruled that Elsa was entitled to a new trial. While there was enough evidence to prove she aided and abetted the crime, the court found that prosecutors didn't present enough evidence to support the convictions for murder and kidnapping. They concluded that it was possible Elsa set up the meeting under less suspicious circumstances and didn't realize it would lead to Monique's murder.
And I understand the frustration of feeling like this defendant is getting off really easy.
She is.
and feeling like she hasn't ever taken accountability for what she really did. And I feel the same way.
The court also overturned Lyndon's conviction for murder and kidnapping, stating that the judge gave the jury erroneous instructions on the liability of accomplices. Elsa was later sentenced to 20 years in prison, with credit for the time she had already served. In June 2022, Lyndon Wiggins went to trial and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He was found guilty of aiding and abetting the premeditated first-degree murder of Monique, as well as aiding and abetting attempted kidnapping and first-degree murder while committing the kidnapping of John Mitchell Momo. Lyndon is currently serving his sentence at a non-Department of Corrections facility in Minnesota, where he will remain for the rest of his life. After everything that happened, with Momo surviving the attempted murder and Monique losing her life, he expressed feeling deeply guilty about how things turned out. He acknowledged that his involvement in drugs and his conflict with Lyndon were the things that started it all. He said it felt as though he was responsible for her death, but at the same time, he didn't want people to see him as a monster. He emphasized that he wasn't this drug dealer who worked with dangerous people like Cedric and Barry. It is sad and unfortunate what all the victims went through in this case. As we reflect on this heart-wrenching tale, our thoughts are with the victim whose life was tragically cut short and the loved ones she left behind. If you found this video compelling, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel and check out our other videos. Thank you for watching.